Back in the day, it all started with a big question: can machines actually think? And by the 1950s, computers were here, waiting for a name and a mission.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that set the stage for the Dartmouth Summer Workshop, where a group of pioneers, like McCarthy, Minsky, and Shannon, got together to really define our field.
Exactly. It was in 1956 on a college campus where they coined the term artificial intelligence. And it wasn't just about proving machines could mimic human conversation. It was about crafting a whole new way to think about intelligence.
That's interesting, because it shows how even back then they understood that if you could break down human thought into precise rules, you might be able to replicate it with machines.
Right. It's like if you had all the pieces of a puzzle laid out by logic, you could then build a complete picture, a machine that solves problems through human-coded rules.
Yeah, exactly. So they put forward a pretty bold idea. Every aspect of learning or intelligence could be described in rules. Kind of like a recipe, right?
Yes, precisely. And that's where the idea of symbolic AI comes in. These early thinkers believed that logic, thanks to folks like Boole, was all you really needed. Just a hefty list of human written rules and facts.
Yep. I mean, it's brilliant in its simplicity. But then they also set up systems like the logic theorist and even early chatbots like Eliza, which surprisingly managed to convince some people that they were chatting with a real human.
Absolutely, and that was a game changer. The logic theorist, debuting around 1955-1956, was one of the first programs that took on complex mathematical proofs, and Eliza, on the other hand, played with the conversation rules. Its simple tricks created this illusion of understanding.
Yeah, it was kind of magical. It does get me thinking, though. If these rule-based systems were so smart, why did they eventually run into trouble?
Great question. See, these early systems were built for what we call simple worlds. Imagine programming a robot with just one rule. If the object is red, then pick it up. In a controlled lab, that's perfect. But out in the messy real world, there's a red apple, a red stop sign, and even a friend in a red shirt.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's the common sense knowledge problem, right? Where human experience gives meaning to something as generic as red, but a rigid rule-based system just falls apart.
Exactly. The brilliance of these early systems was in showing us what computers could do when given rules, but their weakness, their brittleness, was that they couldn't handle the subtlety of real-world data. It's like having a super-fast sports car that can only drive on smooth, straight highways, but then stumbles on potholes.
I get that, but don't you think it's a bit harsh to say that these systems were, just brittle? Didn't they at least pave the way for enhancing human skills?
That's a valid point. In fact, the core ethical takeaway here is enhance, don't replace your skills. These early projects weren't about creating a full-blown human replacement. They were about augmenting human intelligence, automating complex tasks like mathematical proofs, and letting humans focus on higher-level reasoning.
It's like they built a foundation, even if the structure wasn't perfect enough for real-world messiness. And that eventually led us to the next evolution in AI. One that learns from a ton of real-world data rather than just following a set list of rules.
Yes, it's like they made a prototype of a smartphone that could only make calls but paved the way for the multifunctional devices we have today. But here's where the challenge comes in. The systems hit what's known as the first AI winter. Funding dried up because they clearly weren't ready for the complexities of a chaotic world.
Yeah, I can see that. So, while the Dartmouth meeting and the early successes brought amazing excitement, the limitations of GOFAI really forced researchers to rethink whether simple rules alone could capture the vastness of human knowledge and common sense.
Absolutely. It was a pivot point. These early experiments proved that machines can do incredible things when harnessing logic. But they also underscored that we need more than just abstract rules. Massive amounts of data and context are essential for true intelligence.
Exactly. That's a big takeaway. And it also shows, respectfully, that while rule-based systems were groundbreaking, they had intrinsic limits that we eventually had to overcome.
Right, exactly. And that's where the field evolved into what we now see, systems that learn from real-world data rather than relying solely on pre-coded rules. It's fascinating to think about how those initial dreams set the ground for all modern AI trends, even if they weren't perfect at the time.
Yeah, I really appreciate that perspective. It's like the early logic approaches taught us a valuable lesson. Don't try to replace human intuition, but enhance it and build on it.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of how ideas evolve. Initially, the ambition of replicating human thought was grand, but then reality kicked in and showed that context and common sense are irreplaceable.
Right on. And it really makes you wonder how far we've come, huh? From a few simple rules carved out in a college summer to the complex, data-driven AI we see today.
Absolutely. It's a remarkable journey. Those early breakthroughs, like the logic theorist and Eliza, set the stage for everything that followed. And even today, their core lesson, enhancing human skills rather than replacing them, is still, central to how we think about AI.
Yeah, indeed. I love that idea. It's like human creativity and intuition are the secret ingredients, and AI is just the tool that amplifies those strengths rather than overhauling them completely.
Yes, exactly. And as we look back at that pivotal period from 1956 to the 1970s, we see a narrative of ambition, trial, error, and ultimately learning. Those initial challenges gave birth, so to speak, to the modern AI evolution we're witnessing today.
Spot on. It's amazing how the journey from pure logic and rules eventually brought us to AI that understands context and nuance so much better.
Exactly. And that pivot, the shift from a world of brittle rules to one that embraces data and real-world experiences, remains the cornerstone of our AI narrative. We continue to build on that foundation, making systems that empower us rather than trying to replace what makes us human.
Well, this journey from Dartmouth through the era of GOFAI and its ups and downs really shows the cyclical nature of innovation, the highs, the setbacks, and the eventual breakthroughs.
Yeah, it's a true evolution story, and it reminds us to always enhance our capabilities using technology to complement human genius rather than compete with it.
Definitely, yeah. Looking forward to seeing how these insights continue to shape what's next in the field of AI. Thanks for this deep dive. It's been enlightening.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining in. Here's to looking back at our roots and forward to future breakthroughs.